I'm sitting here in my tiny bedroom, staring at my phone screen through tears that won't stop falling. The message is still there, glowing in the darkness of my room like some kind of cruel joke. You have the most beautiful soul I've ever known. I need to see you in person. I look up at my reflection in the cracked mirror hanging on the wall, and all I see is everything I've always hated about myself. My round face, my heavy body, my clothes that never fit right no matter how hard I try. I whisper to my reflection, if you only knew how I really look. But let me start from the beginning, because this love story that changed everything, it started in the most unexpected way. My name is Serafina Valdez Montenegro, and 6 months ago, I was just another invisible girl from the hills of Medellin, Colombia. I lived in La Macarena, one of those neighborhoods that tourists never see, where the houses are painted in bright colors to hide the poverty inside, where the sound of vallenato music mixes with children playing football in narrow streets, and where the smell of fresh arepas from street vendors mingles with the exhaust from old buses climbing the steep roads. I was 22 years old and had never been kissed, never held hands with a boy, never even had a boy look at me twice. You see, I've been overweight my entire life, and in a culture where being thin and beautiful means everything, I learned early to make myself invisible. My mother, Esperanza, works 14-hour days cleaning houses in the wealthy neighborhoods down in the valley. She leaves before dawn and comes back after sunset, her hands raw from cleaning chemicals, her back bent from scrubbing floors, but she never complains. Mia, she always tells me, education is the only way out. Study hard and you'll have a better life than this. So I studied. While other girls my age were going to parties, dating, learning how to put on makeup and flirt with boys, I buried myself in books and online courses. We couldn't afford university, but I had taught myself English by watching American movies with subtitles and reading everything I could find online. Our internet connection was terrible. It would cut out every time it rained, and the Wi-Fi signal barely reached my room, but I made it work. I had to. That's how I found the online literature forum. It was called Global Voices in Literature, and it was full of people from all over the world discussing books, sharing their writing, and debating everything from Shakespeare to contemporary authors. I had been lurking there for months, reading discussions but never participating. I was too intimidated. These people seemed so educated, so sophisticated, so different from me. But one evening in March, everything changed. I was sitting in my usual spot, cross-legged on my narrow bed, laptop balanced on my knees, wearing my favorite oversized sweater that hid my body, when I saw a discussion thread about Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Someone had posted a question about magical realism in love in the time of cholera, and most of the responses completely missed the point. They were analyzing it like any other romance novel, not understanding the deeper cultural and historical context. I couldn't help myself. My fingers started typing before my brain could stop them. I think everyone is missing something crucial here, I wrote. Garcia Marquez wasn't just writing about love. He was writing about how love survives in impossible circumstances. The cholera epidemic is a metaphor for all the social diseases that prevent true connection, class differences, family expectations, political upheaval. When Florentino waits 51 years for Fermina, he's not just being romantic, he's defying every social convention that says their love is impossible. I hesitated for a full 10 minutes before hitting post. My heart was pounding like I was about to jump off a cliff. But I did it. Within an hour, my phone buzzed with notifications. People were responding to my comment, agreeing, asking follow-up questions, engaging with my ideas like they actually mattered. But there was one response that made me catch my breath. User named MAF had written, "This is the most insightful analysis of Garcia Marquez I've read in years. You understand something about love and obstacles that most people never grasp. I'd love to continue this conversation privately if you're interested." I stared at that message for what felt like hours. Who is MAF? I clicked on the profile, but it was mostly empty, just a few book reviews and literary discussions. The writing style suggested someone educated, thoughtful, maybe older than me. But there was something in the way this person expressed ideas that felt familiar. Like we spoke the same language, even though we'd never met. I should have been smart. I should have been careful. But something about that message made me feel seen for the first time in my life. Not seen from my body or my face or where I came. Seen from my mind, my thoughts, my soul. I typed back, "I'd like that." That's how it started. May F and I began exchanging private messages on the forum. At first, we talked only about books and literature. MAF had incredible insights into authors I'd never heard of. Introduced me to Irish writers like James Joyce and William Butler Yeats. Shared perspectives on storytelling that opened my mind to new possibilities. But slowly, our conversations began to drift into more personal territory. What made you fall in love with Garcia Marquez? MF asked one evening. I found myself typing a longer response than I'd intended. I think it was the way he writes. About impossible love. In my world, everything feels impossible. Getting an education, having a career, finding someone who sees past the surface. But his characters keep hoping anyway. They keep believing that love can transcend everything that tries to tear it apart. I guess I need to believe that too. Mef's response came quickly. You sound like someone who understands pain, but hasn't let it make you bitter. That's rare. Most people let disappointment harden them, but you've stayed soft, stayed hopeful. That takes incredible strength. I had to put my laptop down and walk away. No one had ever talked to me like that. No one had ever suggested that. My sensitivity was strength rather than weakness. In my neighborhood, in my family, in my culture, being emotional was seen as a flaw. Don't be so sensitive, Serafina, people always told me. The world is hard, you need to be harder. But here was this stranger telling me that my softness was something valuable. Over the next few weeks, our conversations became daily. MAF would message me in the mornings, which I realized must be evening wherever MAF lived, and I would respond between my online classes and helping my mother with household chores. We talked about everything, books, dreams, fears. FAMIF told me about growing up without parents, about feeling disconnected from people despite professional success, about the loneliness of working from home in a field that required creativity but offered little human connection. I found myself sharing things I'd never told anyone. About how I'd wanted to be a writer since I was a child, but felt like it was an impossible dream for someone like me. About how I felt invisible in my own life, overlooked and undervalued. About how I'd never had a boyfriend because I was convinced no one could ever see past my appearance to the person inside. You know what I think? MAF wrote one night. I think you're hiding behind your insecurities. You have this incredible mind, this beautiful way of seeing the world, this depth of feeling that most people would kill for. But you're so focused on what you think you lack that you can't see what you have. That's easy to say when you can't see me, I typed back. Physical attraction matters, whether we want to admit it or not. Does it? May F responded. I've been attracted to people who turned out to be empty inside, and I've been bored by people who society considers beautiful. The most attractive thing about a person is their mind, their heart, their capacity for connection. Everything else fades. I wanted to believe that. God, I wanted to believe that so badly. But I'd spent 22 years learning that looks matter, that first impressions matter. that people judge you in the first 3 seconds and rarely change. Their minds after that dot. It was during one of these late night conversations that MAF first suggested we video chat. I feel like I know you so well for our messages, MAF wrote, but I'd love to put a face to the person who's become such an important part of my day. Would you be interested in a video call? My stomach dropped. This was the moment I'd been dreading since our first conversation. The moment when the fantasy would end and reality would crash down around us. I stared at the message for a long time, my hands shaking. I'm not really comfortable with video calls, I typed back. I'm pretty shy about that kind of thing. I understand, Miss responded. No pressure at all. How about just a voice call then? I'd love to hear your voice. Even that felt terrifying. What if my accent was too thick? What if I sounded uneducated? What if the romantic, intellectual connection we built through writing disappeared the moment we tried to speak? But I couldn't keep avoiding it forever. And honestly, I was curious too. I'd imagined MAF's voice 100 times while reading those messages. Was it deep or high? Serious or playful? Did MF have an accent? How did MF laugh? Maybe, I wrote back. Let me think about it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the sounds of my neighborhood, dogs barking, music playing from someone's radio, the occasional motorcycle roaring up the hill, and tried to imagine what would happen if I actually talked to MF. Part of me was excited. For months now, these daily conversations had become the highlight of my life. I looked forward to MAF's messages more than anything else. They made me feel understood, valued, interesting. But another part of me was terrified. What if hearing my voice broke the spell? What if the connection we'd built was just in my imagination? The next morning, I was sitting at our small kitchen table, trying to focus on an online economics course while my mother got ready for work. She was rushing around, gathering her cleaning supplies and the lunch I'd packed for her the night before. Mia, you look tired, she said, pausing to kiss my forehead. Are you staying up too late on that computer again? Just studying, Mommy, I lied. I hadn't told her about MAF. How could I explain that I was falling for someone I'd never met? Someone whose real name I didn't even know? Good. Education is your future, but don't forget to live your life too. You're young, beautiful. Maybe you should go out with Lucia more, meet some nice local boys. I almost laughed at that. Lucia Esperanza. Santos, my best friend since childhood, had been trying to get me to go out and meet boys for years. She worked at a beauty salon in the center of La Macarena and was everything I wasn't. Confident, outgoing, comfortable with male attention. She couldn't understand why I wasn't interested in dating the boys from our neighborhood. The problem with you, Sarah, she always told me, is that you think too much. Just have fun, flirt, let someone take you dancing. But I tried that. A few years ago, Lucia had dragged me to a party and introduced me to some of her male friends. They were nice enough guys. Santiago Morales, who worked at the auto repair shop, had even asked for my number. But every conversation felt forced, superficial. They wanted to talk about music and gossip and weekend plans, while I wanted to discuss books and ideas and dreams. I felt like we were speaking different languages. After my mother left for work, I opened my laptop and saw a new message from F waiting for me. I've been thinking about our conversation last night. I don't want to pressure you into anything you're not comfortable with, but I have to be honest, I feel like we have something special. Our conversations have become the best part of my day. I find myself looking forward to your messages more than I've looked forward to anything in a long time. Whatever connection this is, I don't want to lose it because of my impatience. My heart started racing as I read the message. I felt it too, this connection, this pull between us. It wasn't just in my imagination, I typed back. I feel the same way. These conversations mean everything to me. I've never felt understood like this before. I guess I'm just scared that if we move beyond messages, something will change. What if we're better as ... this? What if we're even better as more? MF responded almost immediately. Look, I understand fear. I've spent most of my life avoiding deep connections because they're risky, but you've made me want to take risks again. You've made me want to be brave. I stared at those words for a long time. You've made me want to be brave. When was the last time anyone had inspired bravery in me? When was the last time I'd inspired bravery in anyone else? Before I could change my mind, I typed, okay, let's try a voice call tonight, really? AF's response came so fast I could practically feel the excitement through the screen. That would be amazing. What time works for you? We arranged to call at 9 p.m. my time, which would be 2 a.m. wherever my F was. Another clue about the location, though I still hadn't asked directly. All day, I couldn't concentrate on anything. I kept checking my reflection in every mirror I passed, which was stupid because MAF wouldn't be able to see me. But somehow, the idea of revealing even my voice felt like exposing myself completely. Latia stopped by that afternoon, as she often did after work. She found me pacing around my room, trying on different outfits even though it was just a voice call. Okay, what's going on? She demanded, throwing herself down on my bed. You're acting. Weird. Weirder than usual. Lucia was one of those people who could read me like an open book. We'd grown up together, lived through everything together. My father leaving when I was 12, her mother's battle with cancer, the struggles of growing up poor in a city that promised so much, but delivered so little for people like us. I'm talking to someone, I admitted finally. Online, and tonight we're having our first phone call. Her eyes widened. Someone online? Like, romantically? Maybe, I don't know. It's complicated. Sarah, she sat up straight, her dark eyes sparkling with excitement. This is huge. Tell me everything. What's his name? Where's he from? What does he look like? That's the thing, I said, sitting down next to her. I don't know what he looks like. We've never exchanged photos. We just ... talk about books and life and dreams and everything. Latia stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You've been talking to someone and you don't know what he looks like? Sarah, that's crazy. What if he's some old creepy guy? What if he's married? What if he's not even who he says he is? All the fears I've been pushing down came rushing to the surface. What if he is who he says he is, but stops talking to me the moment he sees what I look like? I countered, oh, honey. Lucia's expression softened and she pulled me into a hug. Is that what this is about? Sarah, you're beautiful. I know you don't see it, but you are. You have these gorgeous eyes, this incredible smile when you actually use it, and your heart. Your heart is the most beautiful thing about you. That's what he says too, I whispered. That beauty comes from the inside. Smart man, see? He already gets it. She pulled back to look at me seriously. But Sarah, you can't build a relationship on hiding. If this is real, if this matters, he's going to have to see you eventually. And if he can't handle the real you, then he doesn't deserve the amazing woman you are. I knew she was right, but knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two very different things. The rest of the day crawled by. I tried to distract myself with schoolwork, but I couldn't focus on anything. Every few minutes, I would check the time and calculate how many hours, then minutes, were left until the call. I practiced conversations in my head, imagining what AF's voice might sound like, wondering what we would talk about when we couldn't hide behind written words. At 8:30 p.m. I locked myself in my room and opened the voice calling app we'd agreed to use. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. At exactly 9 p.m., my phone buzzed with an incoming call from MAF. I stared at the screen for 3 rings before I found the courage to answer. Hello? My voice came out as barely a whisper. Serafina. The voice on the other end was warm, deep, with an accent I couldn't immediately place. Is that really you? Yes, I managed, my heart pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it through the phone. Hi, your voice is beautiful, he said, and I could hear the smile in his words. I've been imagining it for months, but the reality is so much better. Thank you, I said, feeling heat rise in my cheeks. Your voice is ... not what I expected. He laughed, and the sound sent shivers down my spine. What did you expect? I don't know, something different. You have an accent. Irish, he said. Dublin to be specific. Does that surprise you? Irish. That explain the time difference? The references to writers I didn't know, the way he wrote about rain and gray skies. A little, I admitted. Ireland seems so far away from here. Where exactly is here? He asked gently. I know you're in Colombia, but ... Medellin, I said. In the mountains, it's not the fancy part of the city. Tell me about it, he said. I want to know everything about your world. So I did. I told him about the narrow streets that wind up the mountainside, about the sound of children playing football in the tiny plaza near my house, about the way the air smells like coffee and fresh bread in the mornings, and how the music from different houses creates this layered symphony at night. I told him about my mother working so hard to give me opportunities she never had, about the view of the city spread out below us like a carpet of lights. It sounds beautiful, he said when I finished, and you make it come alive. You have this way of describing things that makes me feel like I'm there with you. What about Dublin? I asked. What's your world like? He painted a picture of a city where it rains more often than it doesn't, where old stone buildings stand next to modern glass structures, where the pubs are full of music and storytelling. He told me about working from a small apartment overlooking the River Liffey, about feeling disconnected from the social scene because his work kept him isolated, about loving the history and culture of his city but feeling lonely in the middle of it all. I lost my parents when I was 19, he said quietly. Car accident. Since then, I've sort of ... drifted. I have my work, which I love. I'm a software engineer, but I specialize in programs for creative industries. I have colleagues and acquaintances, but not many real friends. Not many people who understand what I'm actually passionate about. Which is what? I asked. Literature, art, human connection. The intersection between technology and creativity. How we can use modern tools to tell ancient stories in new ways. He paused. What about you? What are you passionate about? Writing, I said without hesitation. I've wanted to be a writer since I was a little girl. I write stories, poems, essays, mostly in Spanish, but I've been trying to write in English too. I dream of publishing something someday, maybe traveling to other countries, meeting other writers. You should, he said firmly. From our conversations, I can tell you have the soul of a storyteller. You see the world differently, you understand human nature in a way that can't be taught. We talked for 3 hours that night, 3 hours that felt like 30 minutes. We covered everything from childhood memories to future dreams, from favorite foods to biggest fears. By the time we said goodbye, I felt like I'd known him my entire life. Can we do this again tomorrow? He asked as we were about to hang up. Yes, I said without hesitation. I'd like that. Serafina, he said, and something in his voice made me hold my breath. I need you to know. These conversations, this connection we have, it's not normal for me. I don't usually open up to people like this, but with you, it feels natural, easy, like we're supposed to be talking to each other. I feel the same way, I whispered. Good night, beautiful. After he hung up, I sat in my dark room for a long time, replaying every word of our conversation. Beautiful. He called me beautiful without even seeing me. How was that possible? That night marked the beginning of something I'd never experienced before: daily phone calls that became the anchor of my existence. Every evening at 9 p.m., MF would call, and we would talk until one or both of us couldn't keep our eyes open anymore. I learned that his name was Matteo Alejandro Finn, that he'd studied computer science at Trinity College, but had always minored in literature, that he'd been to 12 countries, but had never felt at home in any of them until he started talking to me. You make me want to see the world through your eyes, he told me one night. You make Colombia sound like the most magical place on earth. It's not magic, I laughed. It's just home. Maybe that's the magic, he said. The way you love your home despite its flaws. The way you see beauty in places other people might overlook. But as our connection deepened, so did my anxiety. Every night after we hung up, I would lie in bed wondering how long this could last. How long before he wanted more than just a voice? How long before he asked for photos, for video calls, for real meetings? And what would happen when he realized that the girl he was falling for looked nothing like what he probably imagined? 1 month into our nightly calls, Matteo dropped a bomb that changed everything. Serafina, he said during one of our conversations, I need to tell you something. I think I'm falling in love with you. My heart stopped. What? I know it sounds crazy. I know we've never met in person, but I've never felt this way about anyone before. You understand me in a way no one else ever has. You make me laugh. You make me think. You make me want to be a better person. I look forward to your calls more than anything else in my life. I couldn't speak. The words I wanted to say were stuck in my throat, blocked by all my fears and insecurities. Serafina, are you there? I'm here. I managed. I just dot. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, he said gently. I just needed you to know how I feel, and I was hoping maybe you might feel something similar. I do, I whispered. I feel the same way. But Matteo ... double quotes. But what? There are things about me you don't know. Things that might change how you feel. Like what? His voice was patient, curious, not worried. I can't tell you over the phone, I said. It's something you would need to see to understand. There was a long pause. Are you talking about what you look like? My silence was answer enough. Serafina, he said firmly, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I don't care what you look like. I'm not falling in love with your appearance. I'm falling in love with your mind, your heart, your soul. I'm falling in love with the way you laugh at my terrible jokes, and the way you get passionate about books, and the way you care so deeply about your mother and your dreams. Physical appearance, that's just packaging. It doesn't change who you are inside. You say that now, I said, tears starting to fall. But when you see me, when I see you, I'll see the face of the woman I love, and that will make you the most beautiful person in the world to me. I wanted to believe him. With every fiber of my being, I wanted to believe that love could transcend physical appearance, that connection could overcome cultural standards of beauty, that someone could truly love me for who I was inside. But 22 years of being overlooked, ignored, and dismissed had left deep scars on my self-worth. I need time to think, I said finally. Of course, he said. Take all the time you need. But Serafina, don't let fear rob you of something beautiful. Don't let the opinions of people who don't matter steal your chance at happiness. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. I replayed Matteo's words over and over, analyzed every inflection in his voice, tried to convince myself that maybe, just maybe, he meant what he said. But every time I started to believe, I would catch sight of myself in the mirror and reality would crash back down. The next morning, Lucia found me crying over my coffee. "Okay, that's it," she said, sitting down across from me. "Tell me everything." And I mean everything. So I did. I told her about Matteo, about our months of conversations, about his confession of love, about my terror that seeing me would destroy everything we'd built. "Sierra," she said when I finished, "you're being ridiculous." "Thanks," I said sarcastically. "That helps. No, listen to me. You're so focused on what you think you lack that you can't see what you have. This man has been talking to you every night for months. He knows your personality, your dreams, your fears, your sense of humor. He's not falling in love with some fantasy, he's falling in love with the real you. The you that exists beyond physical appearance. But what if he's imagining someone completely different? What if he's picturing some beautiful, thin girl and when he sees me ... Then he's an idiot and you're better off without him," Lucia said firmly. "But Sarah, what if he's exactly who he seems to be? What if he really doesn't care about any of that superficial stuff? What if you let fear destroy the best thing that's ever happened to you?" I stared into my coffee cup, watching the steam rise and dissipate. I don't know how to be brave about this. "You don't have to be brave all at once," she said. "Start small. Send him a photo. See how he reacts. If he disappears, then you know he wasn't worth it anyway. But if he doesn't, if he sees you and still wants to keep talking, still says he loves you, then maybe you can start to believe that you deserve love just like everyone else." "A photo," I repeated. The idea terrified me, but it also felt like a necessary step. I couldn't hide forever. That evening, Matteo called as usual, but I could barely concentrate on our conversation. My mind kept racing, planning and second-guessing and working up the courage to do what I knew I had to do. "You're quiet tonight," he observed. "Everything okay?" "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday," I told him. "About not caring. What I look like, and I want to believe you. But I need to know for sure. I need to know that you mean it." "What are you thinking?" I took a deep breath. "I want to send you a photo, just ... just so you know what you're getting into." "Serafina," he said gently, "you don't have to prove anything to me." "Yes, I do," I said. "For my own peace of mind, I need to know that you can see me, really see me, and still feel the same way." "Okay," he said. "If that's what you need, then I'd love to see you. But promise me something. Promise me you won't interpret my reaction as anything other than excitement to finally see the face of the woman I love." "I'll try," I said after we hung up. I spent 2 hours taking photos of myself. I tried different angles, different lighting, different expressions. But no matter what I did, I still looked like me, round face, full body. Nothing like the actresses and models that filled magazines and social media. Finally, I chose the most honest photo I could find, me sitting in my room, wearing my favorite sweater, smiling slightly, looking directly at the camera. It wasn't glamorous or edited or filtered. It was just ... me ... Before I could change my mind, I sent it to Matteo with a simple message: "This is me." Then I turned off my phone and went to bed, too terrified to wait for his response. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed messages from Matteo. My heart was pounding as I opened them. "Serafina, you're beautiful. I mean that with my whole heart. You're absolutely beautiful. Your eyes are incredible. They're exactly as warm and intelligent as I imagined. I love your smile. It's shy but genuine, and it lights up your whole face. Thank you for trusting me with this. Thank you for letting me see you. I understand now why you were nervous, but I need you to know seeing your face doesn't change anything about how I feel. If anything, It makes me love you more because now I can picture your expressions when we talk. Imagine your smile when you laugh at my jokes. Are you okay? I'm worried about you. Please call me when you get this. I read through all the messages 3 times before I finally believed they were real. He'd seen me, really seen me, and he was still here, still saying he loved me, still wanting to talk to me. I called him back immediately. There you are, he said, and I could hear the relief in his voice. I was worried sick. Are you okay? I'm okay, I said, and for the first time in weeks, I actually meant it. I just ... I needed time to process. And how are you feeling now? Like, maybe I can start to believe that this is real, I said. That you're real. That this feeling between us is real. It's the most real thing in my life, he said. Serafina, I need to ask you something, and I want you to really think about your answer. Okay, how would you feel about me coming to visit you? I want to meet you in person. I want to take you to dinner, hold your hand, look into those beautiful eyes while we talk. I want to meet your mother and see your neighborhood and understand your world in a way I can only do by being there. My breath caught. You want to come here to Colombia? I want to come to you, he said. Wherever you are, that's where I want to be. Everything inside me was screaming yes, but there was still a small voice of doubt whispering in the back of my mind. What if seeing me in person was different than seeing the photo? What if the reality of my neighborhood, my family's poverty, my limited world was too much for someone who lives such a different life? But then I remembered what Lucia had said. What if I let fear destroy the best thing that had ever happened to me? Yes, I said, surprising myself with how strong my voice sounded. Yes, I'd like that very much. Really? The joy in his voice was unmistakable. You mean it? I mean it. But Mateo ... When you come here, you need to understand that my life is very different from yours. I don't have much money. My house is small. My neighborhood isn't fancy. Serafina, he interrupted, I'm not coming to judge your life. I'm coming to be part of it. And just like that, everything changed. Over the next few weeks, Mateo and I began planning his visit to Medellin. We talked about dates, about where he would stay, about what we would do together. But more than that, we talked about us, about what this thing between us really meant, about whether it was possible to fall in love with someone you've never physically been in the same room with. Do you think I'm crazy for feeling this way? I asked him one night as we planned his trip. For loving someone I've never actually met. If you're crazy, then I'm crazy too, he said. But Serafina, I don't think love follows logical rules. I think it happens when 2 souls recognize each other, regardless of physical distance or circumstances. Those words made my heart flutter, but they also scared me. Because if what we had was real love, then it meant I had more to lose than I'd ever had before. The planning process revealed just how different our worlds really were. When Mateo casually mentioned booking a hotel in Zona Rosa, the upscale area of Medellin, I had to explain that it would be easier for us to meet if he stayed somewhere closer to my neighborhood. When he suggested expensive restaurants for our first dinner, I gently guided him toward places I could actually afford to split the bill. Not that he would let me pay. He had made that clear, but I didn't want him to think I was with him for his money. I don't want you to change your lifestyle for me, I told him during one of our planning conversations. But I also need you to understand that my world is different, simpler. If you're expecting luxury ... Serafina, he interrupted gently. The only luxury I'm expecting is time with you. Everything else is just details. But even as I felt myself falling deeper in love with his words, reality was starting to intrude on our fantasy. My mother had noticed my daily phone calls, my constant smiling at my phone, my general air of distraction. Mia, what's going on? With you lately? She asked one morning as we shared coffee before she left for work. You're different, happier, but also nervous. Are you in some kind of trouble? I almost laughed at that. Trouble? If only she knew. I'm fine, Mommy. Just ... there's someone I've been talking to. Her eyebrows shot up. Someone? A boy? A man, I corrected. His name is Matteo. He's from Ireland. Ireland? She set down her coffee cup and stared at me. Serafina, what do you mean? You're talking to someone from Ireland? How did you meet someone from Ireland? So I explained as simply as I could about the online forum, about our conversations, about how we'd been talking for months. I left out the part about him visiting. I wasn't ready for that conversation yet. I'm Mia, she said when I finished, shaking her head. You have to be careful with these internet men. You don't know who they really are. They could be lying about everything, their name, their country, their age, their intentions. He's not lying, Mommy. We talk on the phone every night. I know his voice, his stories, his personality. But you've never seen him? Never met him in person? We've exchanged photos, I said defensively. Photos can be fake, Serafina. And even if they're real, pictures don't tell you who someone really is. What if he's married? What if he has bad intentions? What if he's one of those men who tricks young girls online? All of my own fears spoken aloud by the person whose opinion mattered most to me. I felt my confidence, which had been growing steadily since Matteo's positive reaction to my photo, begin to waver again. He's not like that, I said, but my voice sounded uncertain even to me. How do you know? She pressed. Mia, you're smart about books and school, but you're innocent about men. You've never had a boyfriend, never learned how to read their tricks. These internet predators know how to say exactly what lonely girls want to hear. I'm not lonely, I protested, but even as I said it, I knew it wasn't entirely true. I had been lonely, desperately, achingly lonely, until Matteo came into my life. Everyone is lonely sometimes, my mother said, her voice gentler now. It's not your fault. But that loneliness can make us see what we want to see instead of what's really there. Promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you won't do anything dangerous because of this man you've never met. I promised, but her words followed me around all day. What if she was right? What if I was being naive, seeing romance where there was only manipulation? What if Matteo was nothing like who he claimed to be? That evening, when Matteo called, I found myself analyzing his voice for signs of deception, questioning motives I'd never questioned before. You're quiet tonight, he observed about halfway through our conversation. Is everything okay? My mother knows about you, I said, about us talking. And she's not happy about it? She's worried. She thinks you might be lying about who you are, that you might be trying to trick me somehow. There was a pause. And what do you think? I don't know what to think, I admitted. I want to believe you're exactly who you say you are, but my mother has a point. I don't really know you beyond our conversations. You know more about me than most people in my physical life do, Matteo said seriously. But I understand her concern and yours. If I were your mother, I'd be worried too. A stranger from another country talking to my daughter online. It does sound like something to be cautious about. His understanding of my mother's perspective somehow made me trust him more, not less. So how do we prove to her that you're real? I asked. That you're who you say you are? Well, he said slowly, I could video call with both of you. Let her see me, ask me whatever questions she wants. I could show her my apartment, my identification, anything that would make her feel more comfortable. The idea of my mother interrogating Matteo over video chat was both terrifying and oddly appealing. If he could win her over, then maybe I could. Stop second-guessing everything. Would you really do that? I asked, Serafina, I'll do whatever it takes to prove to you and your family that my intentions are good. I love you, and I want the people who matter to you to know that I'm serious about this. There it was again, that word, love. Every time he said it, it felt both more real and more impossible. Okay, I said. Let me talk to her. But when I brought up the idea of a video call with my mother the next day, her reaction was not what I'd expected. Absolutely not, she said firmly. Serafina, I'm not going to encourage this ... whatever this is. You're getting too attached to someone you can't have. Even if he is who he says he is, even if his intentions are good, what kind of future can you have with someone who lives on the other side of the world? Someone from a completely different culture, a different social class? Mommy, those things don't matter if two people really care about each other. They matter more than you think, she said sadly. Mia, I know you read romantic stories, but real life isn't like books. Love isn't enough to overcome every obstacle. Practical things matter: money, distance, cultural differences, family expectations. This man, even if he's everything he claims to be, what can he offer you? A long-distance relationship that keeps you from finding real love with someone here? What if he is real love? I asked quietly. Then he would come here and prove it, she said. He wouldn't hide behind a computer screen. I didn't tell her that he'd already offered to do exactly that. The conversation with my mother left me feeling more confused than ever. Part of me knew she was just trying to protect me, but another part of me resented her assumption that I couldn't have the kind of love that transcended boundaries. Why was it so hard to believe that someone could love me enough to cross an ocean? Lucia had a completely different perspective when I told her about my mother's concerns. Your mother means well, she said as we sat in the small plaza near our houses, watching children play football, but she's thinking like someone from her generation. She doesn't understand how the world works now, how people can connect across distances in ways that weren't possible when she was young. But what if she's right about the practical stuff? I asked. What if love isn't enough? Love is everything, Lucia said firmly. But Sierra, you have to be smart about it. If this man really loves you, he'll prove it. He'll make the effort to be part of your life in real ways, not just through a phone. He wants to visit, I said quietly. He's been planning a trip to Medellin. Lucia's eyes widened. He wants to come here? To meet you? Yes, but now I'm scared. What if seeing me in person is different than seeing a photo? What if my neighborhood, my family situation is too much for him? What if the reality of my life is nothing like what he's imagining? Sarah, stop, Lucia. Sobbed, grabbing my hands. You're spiraling again. Listen to me. If this man loves you, really loves you, then seeing your real life will only make him love you more. It will help him understand where you come from, what shaped you into the amazing woman you are. And if he can't handle your reality, then he doesn't deserve your love anyway. But what if I'm not ready? What if I'm not brave enough? Then you fake it until you are, she said with a grin. That's what I do with everything else. But my doubts weren't just about Mateo's reaction to my physical presence. They were also about my own worthiness for this kind of love. Every night, as we talked about his upcoming visit, I found myself thinking about all the ways I might disappoint him. My limited wardrobe, my lack of experience with men, my inability to afford the kinds of activities he was probably used to. What if I'm boring in person? I asked him one night. What if our chemistry only exists through phones and computers? Serafina, he said gently, do you remember the first time we talked on the phone? You were nervous then too, worried that hearing your voice would change everything. But it didn't. It made everything better. It made you more real to me, not less. This is different, I protested. Being in the same physical space, sharing meals, spending whole days together. That's a completely different level of intimacy. What if we run out of things to talk about? What if you realize I'm not actually as interesting as I seem from a distance? You know what I think? He said, I think you're so afraid of being disappointed that you're trying to sabotage something beautiful before it has a chance to bloom. But Serafina, disappointment is part of love. Risk is part of love. If we never take the chance of being hurt, we never get the chance of being truly happy either. His words hit me harder than I expected. Was I sabotaging us? Was I so accustomed to protecting myself from rejection that I was rejecting happiness before it could reject me? I'm scared, I admitted. I'd never felt anything like this before, and I don't know how to trust it. I'm scared too, he said. I'm terrified that I'll get to Medellin and somehow mess this up. I'm afraid that the person I am in real life won't live up to the person you've fallen in love with through our conversations. But I'm more afraid of not trying, of letting fear keep us apart when we could have something incredible together. When would you want to come? I asked, and I could hear the surrender in my own voice. As soon as possible, he said immediately. I can arrange time off work, book flights. I could be there within 2 weeks if you want me to. 2 weeks. 14 days to prepare myself for the most important meeting of my life. 14 days to figure out how to introduce him to my mother, my neighborhood, my world. 14 days to transform myself from a girl who'd never been on a real date into someone worthy of this incredible man's love. Okay, I said, my heart pounding. 2 weeks? Really? The joy in his voice was infectious. Serafina, I can't wait to hold you, to look into your eyes while we talk, to be part of your world instead of just hearing about it. After we hung up, I sat in my room for a long time, trying to process what I'd just agreed to. In 2 weeks, Mateo would be here. In my city, my neighborhood, my life. The fantasy would become reality, and there would be no more hiding behind screens and distance. The next morning, I told my mother about Mateo's planned visit. Her reaction was explosive. Absolutely not. She shouted, which was unusual for her. My mother rarely raised her voice. Serafina, you are not meeting some strange man from the internet. What if he's dangerous? What if he hurts you? What if this is all some elaborate scheme? Mommy, please listen to me, I pleaded. I know it sounds crazy, but this is real. He's real. I love him, and he loves me. You don't know what love is, she said, pacing around our small kitchen. You're 22 years old. You've never had a boyfriend, and you think you're in love with someone you've never met? Mia, this isn't love. This is fantasy. How can you say that? I asked, tears starting to fall. You don't know him. You don't know us. You're judging something you don't understand. I understand more than you think, she said, her voice becoming gentler but no less firm. I understand that young women who feel invisible in their real lives can become attached to men who make them feel special online. I understand that loneliness can make us believe in things that aren't real. And I understand that men who prey on innocent girls know exactly what to say to make them fall in love. He's not preying on me, I protested. He encouraged me to pursue my dreams, to believe in myself, to be confident. He doesn't try to control me or isolate me or ask me for anything. He just loves me. Then why hasn't he come to meet you already? She challenged. If he's so in love, if he's so wonderful, why has he waited months to visit? Why does he only exist in your phone? Because I wasn't ready before, I admitted. I was the one who was scared, who kept making excuses. He's wanted to meet me from the beginning. This seemed to give my mother pause. And now you think you're ready. I think I have to be ready, I said. Because if I don't take this chance, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what could have been. We stared at each other across the kitchen table. Two women from different generations trying to understand each other's perspective on love and risk and what it meant to be safe in the world. Finally, my mother sighed deeply. "If you're determined to do this," she said, "and we do it safely, he doesn't come to our house until I've met him first. You meet him in public places with other people around, and Lucia goes with you to the first meeting." Really? I couldn't believe she was agreeing to any part of this. "You'll let me meet him?" "I can't stop you," she said sadly. "You're an adult. But I can insist that you be smart about it. And Serafina, if anything about this man seems wrong, if he says or does anything that makes you uncomfortable, you leave immediately. Promise?" "Me, I promise," I said, throwing my arms around her. "Thank you, Mommy. Thank you for trusting me." "I don't trust him," she said firmly, "but I trust you. And I trust that if I try to forbid this, you'll just do it behind my back and be even less safe." She was probably right about that evening. I called Matteo to tell him about the conversation with my mother and the conditions for his visit. "She wants to meet me first before you and I spend time alone?" he asked. "That's completely reasonable. I want the same thing if I had a daughter. And Lucia has to come to our first meeting," I added. "Your best friend? Good. I'd like to meet her anyway. She's obviously important to you." His easy acceptance of my mother's conditions made me love him even more. No arguments, no complaints about the restrictions, just understanding and cooperation. "There's something else," I said. "My mother, she's going to ask you a lot of questions about your job, your intentions, your life. She's going to try to figure out if you're genuine or if you're trying to take advantage of me somehow." "I hope she does," Matteo said. "The people who love you should be protective of you. They should make sure that anyone who wants to be part of your life is worthy of that privilege. You're not worried about passing her test." "I'm not worried about being honest," he said. "I can't control whether she likes me or approves of me, but I can control whether I'm genuine and respectful. The rest is up to her." Over the next 2 weeks, Matteo and I talked every day about the logistics of his visit. He would fly into Jose Maria Cordova Airport, stay at a small hotel in El Poblado that wasn't too fancy but was in a safe area, and spend 5 days in Medellin. We planned to meet for the first time at Park Leras, a public area with lots of people around, just as my mother had insisted. But beyond the practical arrangements, we also talked about our expectations, our fears, our hopes for what this meeting would mean. "I keep having dreams about seeing you for the first time," Matteo told me one night. "In my dreams, I recognize you immediately, even from a distance, like my soul knows yours, you know?" "I have those dreams too," I admitted. "But I also have nightmares where you take one look at me and get back on the plane." "That will never happen," he said firmly. "Serafina, I need you to understand something. I'm not coming to Medellin to evaluate you or decide whether you're worth my time. I'm coming because I already know you're worth it. I'm coming to celebrate what we have, not to judge whether it's good enough." But even his reassurances couldn't completely calm my anxiety. Every day I found myself obsessing over what to wear, how to style my hair, whether I should try to lose weight before he arrived. Lucia finally intervened. "Sierra, you're driving." "Yourself crazy?" she said, finding me trying on clothes for the 100th time. "He's already seen your photo. He knows what you look like. He's not expecting you to transform into someone else." "But what if the photo was misleading somehow? What if I look worse in person?" "You look exactly like your photo," Lucia said firmly. "Actually, you look better because photos can't capture your personality, your warmth, the way your eyes light up when you smile. Stop trying to be someone else and just be yourself. That's who you fell in love with." Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to be more than myself somehow. more sophisticated, more worldly, more worthy of someone who had traveled the world and achieved professional success. I spent hours researching Dublin, Irish culture, international current events, anything that might help me seem more interesting during our conversations. "You're overthinking this," Lucia said when I told her about my research. The man fell in love with a girl from La Macarena who loves books and dreams of being a writer. Don't try to pretend to be someone else. Be proud of who you are. But who was I, really? That was the question that kept me awake at night as Matteo's arrival date approached. Was I the insecure girl who had spent her whole life feeling invisible? Was I the dreamer who believed in love stories and happy endings? Was I the practical daughter of a hardworking mother who had been taught that love was a luxury we couldn't afford? Or was I someone entirely new, someone brave enough to risk everything for the possibility of extraordinary love? 3 days before Matteo's arrival, my mother finally agreed to speak with him over video chat. I was more nervous about this conversation than I had been about any of our previous milestones. "Remember," I told him before I connected the call, "she's going to be suspicious at first. Don't take it personally. She's just protecting me." "I understand," he said. "I respect her for being cautious." When my mother appeared on screen next to me, I watched Matteo's face carefully for his reaction. My mother was beautiful in the way that women who had worked hard their entire lives were beautiful, strength and dignity etched into every line of her face. But she was also clearly from a different world than his, her simple clothes and modest surroundings a stark contrast to what I'd seen of his life. "Mrs. Valdez," Matteo said in careful Spanish, "it's an honor to meet you. Serafina has told me so much about you." My mother's eyebrows rose slightly at his attempt to speak her language, but she responded in English. "I want to know your intentions with my daughter. I love her," Matteo said simply. "I want to be part of her life in whatever way she allows. I want to support her dreams, encourage her writing, and hopefully build a future together." "You live in Ireland," my mother pointed out. "She lives here. How do you plan to build a future across such distance?" "I work remotely," Matteo explained. "My job allows me to live anywhere with a good internet connection. If Serafina and I decide we want to be together, I'm prepared to relocate." "You would move to Colombia? For a girl you've never met in person?" "I would move anywhere to be with the woman I love," Matteo said. "And Mrs. Valdez, I know this seems sudden to you, but Serafina and I have been talking every day for 6 months. I know her mind, her heart, her dreams, her fears. I know how she takes her coffee, what books make her cry, how she worries about your long work hours. I know she talks to you every morning before you leave for work, and that she checks on Donna, Carmen next door, when you're both away. I know she writes poetry in a notebook she keeps under her pillow and that she wants to publish a book someday. I know her better than I've ever known anyone." I saw my mother's expression soften slightly at this evidence of how much attention Matteo paid to the details of my life. "What do you do for work?" she asked. "I'm a software engineer specializing in creative applications," Matteo explained. "I develop programs that help artists, writers, and musicians create and share their work more effectively. It's allowed me to combine my technical skills with my love of literature and art." "And you make enough money to support a family, Mommy?" I protested, embarrassed by the directness of the question. "It's okay," Matteo said with a smile. "It's a fair question. Yes, ma'am, I do well enough to support myself and anyone I might share my life with. I'm not wealthy, but I'm financially stable." My mother asked him about his family, his education, his past relationships, his views on marriage and children. Matteo answered every question patiently and honestly. When she asked why he had never married, he said, "I was waiting for the right person. I didn't know it at the time, but I was waiting for Serafina." When the call ended, my mother was quiet. For a long time. "Well," I asked anxiously, "what do you think?" "He seems genuine," she admitted reluctantly. "And he clearly cares about you." But Serafina, caring about someone and being able to build a real life with them are two different things. This man lives in a different world from us. Even if he moves here, even if he means what he says about supporting your dreams, there will be challenges you can't imagine. "Every relationship has challenges," I said. "But if we love each other, love is a beginning," my mother said, "not an ending. It's what starts the story, not what finishes it. What finishes it is commitment, compromise, understanding, shared values, and the ability to weather difficulties together. You don't know yet if you and this man have those things." "Then I guess I'll find out when he gets here," I said. 2 days. Later, the night before Mateo's arrival, I couldn't sleep at all. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through every possible scenario for our first meeting. What if we didn't recognize each other? What if the conversation was awkward? What if we had nothing to talk about in person? What if the chemistry that burned so bright through phone calls and messages fizzled out when we were in the same physical space? Or worse, what if everything was perfect but temporary? What if we had an amazing few days together, but then he went back to Ireland and gradually the distance wore down whatever we had built? What if this visit was just a beautiful interlude before the inevitable end? Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed with a message from Mateo. "Can't sleep either?" I called him immediately. "I'm terrified," I admitted as soon as he answered. "Good," he said. "If you weren't scared, it would mean this didn't matter to you. The fact that you're terrified means you care as much as I do. What if we're making a mistake?" I asked. "What if we're better as a fantasy than we could ever be as reality? Then we'll deal with that," he said. "But Serafina, what if we're not? What if we're even better in person than we are like this? What if this is just the beginning of something incredible? I don't know how to hope for that without setting myself up for disappointment," I whispered. "Here's what I know," Mateo said gently. "Tomorrow, I'm going to see you. I'm going to look into your eyes and hold your hands and hear your laugh without any technology between us. I'm going to meet your best friend and taste the coffee you make every morning and walk through the streets you've described to me 100 times. Whatever happens after that, whatever we decide about our future, at least we'll know we tried. At least we'll know we were brave enough to find out if this love is real. And if it's not?" I asked. "Then we'll have had a beautiful friendship and a story to tell for the rest of our lives," he said. "But Serafina, I think it is real. I think what we have is once in a lifetime real. And I think tomorrow is going to be the beginning of our forever." I fell asleep holding the phone, his voice the last thing I heard before dreams took over. And for the first time in weeks, my dreams were not filled with anxiety and worst-case scenarios. They were filled with possibility. The morning of Mateo's arrival dawned gray and humid, with the kind of thick clouds that promise rain later in the day. I woke up at 5 a.m. after maybe 2 hours of actual sleep, my stomach twisted in knots that felt more like terror than excitement. This was it. After 6 months of voices and messages and photographs, after 6 months of falling in love with someone I'd never touched, never breathed the same air as, never looked at while he was looking back at me, today I would find out if any of it was real. I showered twice, changed clothes 4 times, and spent an hour staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, trying to see myself through Mateo's eyes. Would I be shorter than he expected? Rounder? Would my skin look different in natural light than it had in the photo I'd sent him? Would my voice sound strange when it wasn't filtered through phone speakers? Would I move awkwardly, smile too much, say the wrong things? "Sarah, you're going to make yourself sick," Lucia said when she arrived at 7 a.m. to help me get ready. She took one look at my pale, anxious face and immediately took charge. "Sit down, let me do your hair." "What if he doesn't recognize me?" I asked as she ran her fingers through my hair, deciding how to style it. "What if I look completely different from what he's imagining?" "He's seen your photo," Lucia reminded me for the 100th time. "And besides, he's not coming here to judge your appearance. He's coming here because he's already in love with you." "But what if seeing me in person changes that? What if the reality doesn't match the fantasy?" Lucia stopped brushing my hair and turned me around to face her. "Sierra, listen to me very carefully. If this man's feelings for you can be changed by something as superficial as whether you look exactly like he imagined, then he never really loved you in the first place. Real love sees the person, not just the package." I wanted to believe her, but 22 years of feeling invisible had left deep scars on my confidence. "I just want so badly for this to work," I whispered. "I've never wanted anything this much in my life." "I know," Lucia said gently, resuming her work on my hair. "And it's going to work because you two have something real. I can hear it in your voice when you talk about him, see it in your eyes when you read his messages. That kind of connection doesn't just disappear because you're in the same room instead of on the phone." She styled my hair simply, letting my natural waves frame my face instead of trying to force them into some complicated arrangement that wouldn't survive Madeleine's humidity anyway. For makeup, she kept it minimal, just enough to enhance my features without making me look like someone else entirely. "Remember," she said as she applied a light coat of mascara, "he fell in love with the real you. Don't try to be anyone else." Today, for my outfit, we'd chosen a simple but pretty sundress in deep blue, Mateo's favorite color, as I'd learned during one of our many conversations. It was modest but flattering, comfortable, but nice enough for a first date. I paired it with sandals that I could actually walk in and a light cardigan in case the air conditioning in restaurants was too cold. "You look beautiful," Lucia said when we were finished. "More importantly, you look like yourself." At 11 a.m., we took a bus down from La Macarena to El Poblado. I spent the entire 40-minute ride staring out the window, watching my neighborhood disappear behind us as we descended into the wealthier parts of the city. The contrast was always jarring, from the painted concrete houses clinging to the mountainside to the modern apartment buildings and shopping centers of the valley. This was Mateo's world now, at least temporarily. Would he be able to make the reverse journey to mine? Park Laris was already busy when we arrived, filled with tourists and locals enjoying the Saturday morning. We'd chosen this spot because it was public and safe, but also because it was beautiful, full of trees and flowers and street art that showed the best of what Madeleine had to offer. If Mateo was going to get his first real impression of my city, I wanted it to be a good one. He said he'd be wearing a blue shirt, I told Lucia as we found a bench with a good view of the main entrance to the park. "And he'll be carrying a copy of Love in the Time of Cholera, our book." "Very romantic," Lucia said with a grin. "I like him already." Mateo's flight had landed at 9 a.m., and he'd texted me that he would need about an hour to get through customs and travel to the meeting spot. It was now 11:30, and every time I saw a tall man with light hair, my heart would stop for a moment before I realized it wasn't him. What if his flight was delayed? I asked Lucia. What if he missed his connection? What if he changed his mind at the last minute and decided not to come? Then you'll know he wasn't worthy of you, Lucia said firmly. But Sarah, stop imagining disasters. He's probably just stuck in traffic or having trouble with the taxi driver's directions. Give him time. At 11:45, my phone buzzed with a text. Just arrived at the park. Looking for you now. My entire body started shaking. He's here, I whispered to Lucia. He's actually here. Breathe, she commanded. Deep breaths. You've got this. I stood up on unsteady legs and scanned the park entrance. And then I saw him, even from a distance. Even though I'd only seen him in photographs, I knew it was Matteo immediately. Lucia had been right. My soul recognized his. He was taller than I'd expected, with dark hair that looked almost black in the Colombian sunlight, and skin that suggested he spent more time outdoors than his computer programming job would imply. He was wearing the blue shirt he promised. And yes, he was carrying Garcia Marquez's book like a beacon, but what struck me most was how he moved. There was something careful and thoughtful about the way he walked, the way he looked around the park, the way he held himself. This wasn't someone putting on a show or trying to impress. This was someone genuinely searching for something important to him. That's him, I breathed. Go, Lucia said, giving me a gentle push. Go to your man. I started walking toward him, my legs feeling like they might give out at any moment. When I was about 20 feet away, he turned in my direction and our eyes met. The world stopped. I know that sounds like something from one of the romance novels I love to read, but I swear it's exactly what happened. The noise of the park, children playing, vendors calling out their wares, traffic from the nearby street, all of it faded into background silence. The only thing that existed was Matteo's face and the expression of wonder and recognition that spread across it when he saw me. We stared at each other for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Then his face broke into the most beautiful smile I'd ever seen, and he started walking toward me faster. Serafina? He said when we were close enough to speak. And even though I'd heard him say my name 1,000 times over the phone, hearing it in person, with the air carrying his voice directly to my ears instead of through speakers, made me want to cry. Yes, I managed. It's me. You're here, he said, his voice full of amazement. You're really here, and you're... He stopped, seeming to search for words. You're even more beautiful than your photograph. So are you, I said, and meant it. The pictures he'd sent me hadn't captured the kindness in his eyes, or the way his presence seemed to radiate warmth. We stood there looking at each other, neither of us quite sure what to do next. Should we hug? Shake hands? Kiss? We'd talked about everything under the sun, but we'd never discussed the physical protocol for first meetings. Matteo solved the dilemma by opening his arms slightly, a question in his eyes. I stepped forward and let him wrap me in the gentlest hug I'd ever received. He was warm and solid and smelled like soap, an airplane, and something uniquely him that I couldn't identify but immediately wanted to memorize. I can't believe you're real, he whispered against my hair. I can't believe you're actually here in my arms. I was thinking the same thing, I whispered back. When we separated, both of us were smiling so hard our faces hurt. There was an awkward moment where we both started to speak at the same time, then stopped, then laughed. This is surreal, I said. Good surreal or bad surreal? He asked. The best surreal, I said. But also terrifying. I'm terrified too, he admitted. I've been planning what to say for weeks, and now that you're here, I can't remember any of it. Maybe we don't need planned words, I suggested. Maybe we can just ... be ourselves. I'd like that, he said. It was then that I remembered Lucia, who had been watching this entire exchange from our bench with an enormous grin on her face. There's someone I want you to meet, I told Matteo, gesturing for her to join us. Lucia approached with the confidence that I envied. Her hand extended toward Matteo before I could even make introductions. You must be the famous Matteo, she said in English that was much better than she usually let on. I'm Lucia, Sierra's best friend and unofficial bodyguard. Matteo shook her hand with a smile that seemed genuinely pleased rather than annoyed by her protective stance. It's wonderful to meet you, Lucia. Serafina has told me so much about you. Thank you for coming today. I know this whole situation must seem strange. Strange, yes, Lucia agreed. But also romantic. How many people can say they fell in love with someone's soul before they ever saw their face? I felt heat rise in my cheeks at her directness, but Matteo just nodded seriously. Not many, he said. I feel very lucky to be one of them. The three of us found a table at a small cafe that overlooked the park. Matteo insisted on buying coffee and pastries for all of us, and I watched nervously as he interacted with the server in careful but understandable Spanish. He'd clearly been studying, trying to prepare himself for this trip in every way possible. Your Spanish is much better than you made it sound, I told him as we settled in with our drinks. I've been practicing, he admitted. I wanted to be able to at least order food and ask for directions without needing you to translate everything. Planning to do some solo exploring? Lucia asked with a teasing glint in her eye. I was hoping Serafina might show me around, Matteo said, looking at me hopefully. I want to see her world through her eyes. The conversation flowed more easily than I dared to hope. Whatever nervousness we'd both felt about the transition from digital to physical communication seemed to melt away as we talked. Matteo asked Lucia about her work at the salon, about growing up in La Macarena, about her impressions of the changes in Medellin over the years. Lucia, in turn, grilled him about his life in Dublin, his work, his family situation, and his intentions regarding me. So you really live alone? She asked. No girlfriend hiding somewhere? No girlfriend hiding anywhere? Matteo assured her. I haven't been in a serious relationship in over 2 years. I was starting to think I might never find someone who understood me until I met your friend here. And you're really planning to move to Colombia if things work out between you two? I am, he said without hesitation. My job is completely remote, and honestly, I've been looking for a reason to leave Dublin for a while. It's a beautiful city, but it's never felt like home. Too cold, too gray, too ... solitary. And you think Medellin will feel like home? I asked. I think anywhere you are will feel like home, he said, and the sincerity in his voice made my heart skip. After we finished our coffee, Lucia announced that she had to leave to help her mother with some errands. I suspected this was a polite fiction designed to give Matteo and me some time alone, but I was grateful for her thoughtfulness. It was wonderful to meet you, Matteo, she said as she gathered her purse. Take good care of our girl. I will, he promised. Thank you for watching out for her. After Lucia left, Matteo and I found ourselves alone together for the first time. The dynamic shifted immediately without the buffer of my best friend's personality. We were forced to navigate this new reality of physical presence on our own. So, I said, suddenly feeling shy, what would you like to do? See? Everything, he said immediately. I want to see everything that's important to you. Your favorite places, the spots where you like to think and write, the street where you buy coffee in the mornings. I want to understand the geography of your daily life. That might be boring for someone who's traveled all over the world, I warned. Serafina, he said seriously, you could show me a parking lot and I'd find it fascinating if it was part of your world. We decided to start with a walking tour of El Poblado, since we were already there and it would give us time to adjust to being together in person. As we strolled through the tree-lined streets, past outdoor cafes and boutique shops, Matteo asked questions about everything. The architecture, the people, the mix of languages we heard from passing tourists. It's not what I expected, he said as we paused to watch street performers in a small plaza. What did you expect? I asked, suddenly worried that the reality of my city was disappointing him. Something more generic, I guess, he said. Most cities that cater to tourists start to feel the same after a while. But this feels authentic. Like it has its own personality that hasn't been manufactured for outsiders. Wait until you see my neighborhood, I said. El Poblado is nice, but it's not really Medellin. Not the Medellin where most people actually live. I can't wait, he said, and he seemed to mean it. As we walked, I found myself studying his face when he wasn't looking, trying to reconcile the Mateo I'd imagined with the real man beside me. He was handsome, certainly, but not in the conventional way I'd expected. His features were strong but gentle, his smile was quick and genuine, and his eyes, God. His eyes were exactly as kind and intelligent as they'd sounded in his voice, but it was the small things that surprised me most. The way he held doors open, not just for me, but for strangers. The way he said, "Con permiso," when we needed to pass someone on the sidewalk. The way he noticed and commented on details I would have overlooked, the colors of the buildings, the way the light filtered through the trees, the sound of music drifting from open windows. You see things differently than I expected, I told him as we sat on a bench overlooking the valley. How so? Most tourists want to see the famous stuff, the museums, the monuments, the things they can post on social media. But you're interested in ... ordinary life. Because ordinary life is where real people actually exist, he said. I don't want the sanitized version of your world. I want to understand what your daily experience is actually like, even if it's not glamorous. Especially if it's not glamorous, he said. Serafina, I fell in love with you because of who you are, not because of where you come from or what your life looks like from the outside. Seeing your real world doesn't make me love you less. It makes me understand you better. We had lunch at a small restaurant that served traditional Colombian food. I watched nervously as Mateo tried arepas and bandeja paisa for the first time, worried that the flavors might be too unfamiliar or too strong for his Irish palate. This is incredible, he said after his first bite of the bandeja paisa. No wonder you miss Colombian food when you're talking about other cuisines. You like it? Really? I love it, he said. It's like comfort food, but more complex. Each bite has all these different flavors working together. His enthusiasm for the food, for the experience, for everything he was seeing, helped me relax in a way I hadn't expected. This wasn't a man who was just being polite or trying to impress me. This was someone who was genuinely curious about and appreciative of a culture different from his own. After lunch, we walked through some of the local markets. Mateo was fascinated by the fruit vendors, asking questions about varieties he'd never seen before, trying small samples of exotic flavors. He bought a bag of mangoes for later and insisted on carrying my purse when it got too heavy with the small souvenirs I couldn't resist purchasing. You don't have to do that, I protested when he took my bag. I want to, he said simply. Let me take care of you a little bit. The afternoon flew by faster than any afternoon of my life. We talked constantly about what we were seeing, about our reactions to being together, about the differences and similarities between our cultures. But we also had comfortable silences, moments where we just walked side by side, occasionally brushing hands or shoulders, getting used to sharing the same physical space. It wasn't until late afternoon that I realized we hadn't taken any photos together. Most couples on a first date would have documented every moment, but we've been too absorbed in actually experiencing each other to think about capturing it for posterity. Should we take a picture? I asked as we stood in front of a beautiful mural that covered the side of a building. Only if you want to, Mateo said. I'm perfectly happy just living this moment instead of documenting it. I want to, I said. I want proof that this actually happened. We found a kind stranger to take our photo, and as we stood close together, Mateo's arm around my waist, I felt a sense of rightness that I'd never experienced before. This was real. We were real. Whatever this was between us, it existed in 3 dimensions now. Not just in the digital space we'd inhabited for months as the sun started to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that made the city look like something from a painting. Matteo turned to me with an expression that was both happy and slightly melancholy. "I don't want this day to end," he said. "It doesn't have to end," I pointed out. "You're here for 4 more days, I know," he said. "But this day this first day it's been perfect. And I'm afraid that when I wake up tomorrow, I'll discover it was all a dream." "It's not a dream," I said, reaching out to touch his hand. "Look, you can feel me. I can feel you. We're really here together." He laced his fingers through mine, and the simple contact sent shivers up my arm. "I've been imagining holding your hand for months," he said. "But I never imagined it would feel like this." "Like what?" "Like coming home," he said. "Like everything I've been searching for without even knowing I was searching." We stood there as the light faded around us, holding hands and watching the city come alive with evening lights. Below us, Medellin sparkled like a carpet of stars, and above us, the first real stars were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "Serafina," Matteo said softly, "I need to tell you something." "What?" I asked, suddenly nervous. "I was prepared for this to be wonderful," he said. "I was prepared for us to have a good time together, to enjoy each other's company, to see if what we had over the phone could translate to real life. But I wasn't prepared for this." "For what?" "For the feeling that I've been only half alive until today," he said. "For the certainty that you're not just someone I could love, but someone I already do love, completely and irrevocably. For the knowledge that when I leave here, I'm either going to have to figure out how to stay or figure out how to convince you to come with me, because I can't imagine going back to a life that doesn't include you." His words took my breath away. "Matteo, I know it's too much too soon," he said quickly. "I know we've only spent 1 day together in person. But Serafina, what I feel for you isn't just attraction or infatuation or the excitement of something new. It's recognition. It's the feeling that I've found the person I'm supposed to build a life with." I stared at him, trying to process what he was saying. "Are you asking me to marry you?" I asked, half joking but also half serious. "Not yet," he said with a smile. "But I'm asking if you think you might want to someday. I'm asking if what you feel for me is strong enough to build something permanent on." I started, then stopped. How could I explain that I'd been asking myself the same question all day? How could I tell him that every moment we'd spent together had felt like a glimpse of a possible future I'd never dared to imagine for myself? "You don't have to answer now," he said gently. "I just needed you to know that this isn't casual for me. What we have, what we're building, it's the most serious thing in my life." "It's the most serious thing in my life too," I admitted. "But Matteo, I'm scared. This feels too good to be true. Too easy, too perfect. Why does it have to be hard to be real?" he asked. "Why can't love be easy when it's right?" "Because nothing good has ever been easy for me," I said honestly. "Because I'm not used to getting the things I want most." "Maybe it's time to get used to it," he said. "Maybe it's time to believe that you deserve good things, beautiful things, easy things." As if to emphasize his point, a soft breeze picked up, carrying the scent of night-blooming jasmine from a nearby garden. The air was warm but not oppressive. The sounds of the city were musical rather than harsh, and the man beside me was looking at me like I was something precious he'd been searching for his entire life. "I want to believe that," I whispered. "Then believe it," he said. "Start with today. Believe that today was real, that what we felt was real, that what we're building is real. Everything else we can figure out as we go." We took a taxi back to his hotel as the city settled into its evening rhythm. The ride was quiet, both of us processing the intensity of the day, the weight of the emotions we'd shared, the magnitude of what we were contemplating. "What time should I see you tomorrow?" Mateo asked as the taxi pulled up to his hotel. "Whenever you want," I said. "I cleared my whole schedule for you. Breakfast?" he suggested hopefully. "I can meet you in your neighborhood this time." Start seeing your real world instead of the tourist version. "Are you sure?" I asked.